chat. We will get to all the questions. And most importantly, remember, because it's being recorded, someone else is going to listen and play this back a little bit later after we all exit out of this webinar. And we want to make sure that they can hear all of the panelists and that they can understand the questions and answers that are coming forth. So with that, thank you for the warm welcome. I am State Rep Joanna McClinton. I serve the neighbors in Southwest Philly, West Philly, the Cobbs Creek section, Market down to Lindbergh Boulevard, Darby Borough, and Gaydon. And from Chester Avenue to 60th Street to Woodland Avenue, nothing makes me more excited than connecting with Philadelphia's Commerce Department, because they are working hard with all of the aspiring business owners to ensure that there are no vacancies, that all of our buildings are filled, and that they're filled with businesses that are flourishing. So with that, we're going to hear from some great panelists, and I would like every panelist to introduce yourselves. You have 1 minute to tell a little bit about who you are, what your business experience is, and why you are excited to be with us this morning. And we'll start with Nazira Sabri from the Office of Commerce.
Thank you. I'm going to allow Nicole to let some folks in before I introduce myself so we're not interrupted. All right. So thank you, Sylvie, for that warm welcome. Thank you and good morning, Representative Clinton, and good morning to all of you in attendance. My name is Nazira Sabri, and I'm the Senior Director of the Office of Business Services. The Office of Business Services is your first point of contact and the friendly face of the city when operating or starting a business in Philadelphia. We have 8 business services managers who are all signed on today. Please give a wave, business service managers, who are geographically assigned to work with you one-on-one to help you navigate city processes, understand business regulations, and connect you to programs and resources. Our team possesses multiple languages, and we also assist in revitalizing commercial corridors and building organizational capacity with our business associations. OBS has been working the front line since the beginning of the pandemic and throughout all of the phases, including the stay-at-home order, the civil uprisings, and the reopenings. We have connected with over 6,000 business owners and aspiring entrepreneurs since March 16th. And during that time, we received hundreds of calls from people like you who want to start a business. And so I am excited because we realized that this was a great demand and we wanted to make sure that we brought it all to you. So welcome. Thank you.
And each panelist can just unmute yourselves and go around. We also have Darlene Jones, Jovon Goldstein, and Bernard Williams, Esquire.
Hi, my name is Darlene Jones. I'm the owner and operator of Star Fusion Restaurant on 63rd Street, the new Star Fusion Express on 52nd and Parkside. And we also have a juice bar called Blue Diamond Juicery on 52nd and Walnut Street. Star Fusion Restaurant opened in 2015. My start was selling dinners inside of my house, and Nazari was actually one of the first people who put it in my head that I can actually turn that selling dinners into your home into an actual business. So I'm definitely grateful for her as well. Thank you. Jovon?
Morning, my name is Jovon Goldstein. I'm the managing partner of JT Goldstein, which is a CPA firm based in downtown Philadelphia. We are a full service firm that provides audit, tax, and accounting services, and also business advisory services. And what we do at the end of the day is we help all of our clients make confident business decisions. And what does that mean? For the most part, none of our clients make any significant business decisions without first consulting with us. We also have a niche in what we call CFO advisory services, where companies that's growing or looking to be strategic, they kind of outsource that function for us and we help them tackle those initiatives. We also had a pleasure working with the Commerce Department and their business coaching program, where we lead efforts of businesses that the Commerce Department will refer to our firm to help them in their financial and marketing efforts in their pursuit of receiving certain dollars from the Commerce Department, which is a program I just described as your tax dollars best at work. Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here today. Bernard.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Bernard Williams, and I am the managing partner, founder, and a small business attorney with Company Counsel LLC. I founded Company Counsel about 5 years ago as a law firm designed specifically to meet the legal needs of startups, entrepreneurs, and small businesses. It's an issue that's close to my heart. Although I've been practicing law for about 20 years, about 10 years ago, I tried to launch my first startup. Well, it didn't quite go the way that I'd expected. And in that process, I learned a great deal about what it was like to really be a small business person on the ground and in the arena. And it's from that perspective that I founded Company Counsel, so that I could provide the types of legal services that small businesses need to beat the odds, to make better decisions, and to thrive. I'm very excited to be here today and excited to share and learn from my fellow panelists. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone, for those introductions. Now we have several questions that I'm going to ask, and then we will have a question and answer period. So if you do not hear a question answer that you have, please drop it in the chat and we will definitely get to it. So I'm going to start back with Nazara. Everybody wants to know, do you have to get the city involved if you want to start a business, or can you just do it on your own? Like, what is the requirement, if any?
Thank you for that question. So you do not have to get the city involved, but should you get the city involved? Absolutely. Here's why. It'll save you time and it'll save you money. Depending on the type of business that you want to begin, there are several layers that get you to the finish line and to that ribbon cutting. There are multiple departments in which you need to touch in order to start that business. So it could be planning, zoning, identifying licenses, structure, legal structures, understanding the resources and the programs that are available. So as it relates to saving time, you can go to all of these departments, and each of these departments will have a representative that can assist you with whatever subject matter they are an expert in. However, our Office of Business Services team, in which I lead, works with you one-on-one to help you get started. So they can help you identify those licenses. They can help you identify a location if you're looking to start a brick and mortar. They can also connect you to available funding and things of that sort to move you forward as you get started. And so I would highly recommend you starting with the city, specifically the Office of Business Services, so that we can lay out that foundation for you and that guideline to get you started.
Got it. So now once we get that foundation and the guideline, and this is for any of our panelists, just either raise your hand or unmute and begin talking to answer. What are the basic requirements for starting a business in the city of Philadelphia from your experiences?
I can start off, and I'll just kind of work my way down, and this is in no specific order, but first things first, you definitely want to start with a business plan. That business plan is going to help guide you throughout your steps of your business venture, right? So it'll help you research what is happening in that industry. It will help you identify your competition, and it'll help you understand how much money you could potentially make by starting a business. But as it relates to the requirements, you will want to start with the IRS, the Internal Revenue Service, which is our favorite entity in the whole wide world, by establishing an employer identification number. Essentially, that is your social security number for your business. You then want to move on to the state. And if you decide to give your business a name outside of Nazara Sabri, the name of your actual name, you want to register your name with the PA Department of State. And then if you want to, and I'm sure Bernard will tap into this, the legal structure, you definitely need to register your business if it's going to be an LLC, corporation, anything other than a sole proprietorship. There's a few more things, and then I'm going to let some of the other panelists jump in. But if it's a retail business, you'll need to have a PA sales tax account number. For the city, as it relates, the basic things that you need to do for the city is your business income and receipts tax account number, and that is through the Department of Revenue, and your commercial activity license. And your commercial activity license is the one that allows you to do business in the city of Philadelphia. Those two things are the two things that you absolutely need in order to do business with the city. And again, it goes to different types of industries. That's where the different other permits and licenses come into play.
So the next question is actually for Bernard, and that is, how do you decide what type of legal structure to use forming your business, whether it should be an incorporation, LLC, etc.?
Sure, thank you. So, I think the place to start there is the question of, should I form a separate business? Should I form a separate entity? When should I form a separate entity? I hear that question a lot. How much money should I be making before I think about actually formalizing this business? In my view, that's the wrong way to look at it. In my view, the reason that you form a separate entity has nothing to do with how much money you're making, and more to do with
join the meeting.
Forming a separate entity, and we can get more into this probably a little bit later, creates a barrier that protects your personal assets. And that layer of liability protection can be the difference between going bankrupt and not. So in my view, as early in the process as possible, you should take the steps to form that separate entity. Zara touched on some of the steps in terms of the city documents and getting the EIN. After that, the two choices of entity types that make the most sense for most startups are either a corporation or an LLC. There are pros and cons to each. If you are, but the steps are pretty similar. In both cases, you're going to want to get the EIN. You're going to want to do the state documents, the formation documents. And then the third step, which is very, very important, is that you want to have governance documents in place. Even if you're the only owner of the business, you still want to have appropriate governance documents in place that dictate how the company is run, how it handles profits and losses, and how it handles other governance type issues. It's called bylaws for an LLC. It's called bylaws for a corporation. The document is called an operating agreement for LLCs. I'm sure Jovon has some criteria that he uses to advise people who are considering, whether they're interested in an LLC or a corporation, because there are some tax differences. Independent of the tax differences, the other things that you want to think about are how are you going to make the decisions going forward, and how are you going to capitalize, whether or not you want to ultimately go public, get loans, or give out equity, or whatever you want to do. And based on some of those decisions that you'll figure out probably during the business planning stage, that'll dictate which entity type makes the most sense.
If I can just add on that, Bernard. If I can just add on that, another thing you want to consider is not necessarily where the company is at today, but where it plans on going and where it plans on ending up. And also, if you plan on having partners or enter into like joint venture relationships, things to that nature, all of those considerations, in addition to everything Bernard said, is very, very important when you start talking about your structure, especially when you start talking about admitting another partner. So make sure that you consider that as well.
Thank you for your insight. So now I have a question for Darlene. We know a lot of people cook out of their kitchen, sell dinners, have catering companies, etc. I watched my mother do it, and then she ended up having a deli for about 5 years, but she always said she needed more help because, it's just so expensive. So for those who want to have a food catering company or a restaurant like you, or several locations as you're branching out, what is your advice for the planning process for those great cooks among us who want to be able to share some more good food with the world?
Thank you for asking me this question, Ms. McClinton. I'm very happy you asked me this question because as a chef, this is something that we don't think about. We never think about the financial planning of it all. And in order for you to make any money out of this, especially with the food business, you have to think about the structure and the cost of your goods that you're selling. And that's one of the things I actually learned by working with Jovon Goldstein and his firm, how to cost out everything. So let me give you a breakdown on what I mean by that. It's a two-part question because, well, it's a two-part answer because it's about it's about finding a niche and then building like a financial calendar around that. Once you have it here, we sell chicken wings. In order for you to have a successful business, you have to understand how to cost out your chicken wings. You can't just throw a price on your menu and think you're going to either make money from it, because you may actually lose money. So for the planning process, I would definitely recommend that they first start off with coming up with some kind of financial structure for their business, and then pricing out anything that they're going to niche sell for their restaurant, like a chicken wing or a fish sandwich. Just know all your costing. That's the number one process of planning.
Excellent answer, and thank you for your insight from your experience. You certainly are in it and know. Oh, Nazara, please add.
I want to also add that on our website, www.phila.gov, we have an actual, not www.phila.gov, business.phila.gov. We actually have, my daughter's name is on the screen. I don't understand why. Sorry. We actually have a guide that takes you step by step in starting a restaurant. A restaurant is one of the most tedious businesses to begin, and we realize that. And so not only do we have a guide that takes you throughout all of the steps, we also have a video that can assist you. And I believe we just dropped it in the chat.
That is very helpful. So hopefully folks will check out that link. It is in the chat now. And we're going to stick with you, Naz. And I would like to know the $1 million question that a lot of constituents call my office and ask, or ask me face to face. Is there money to start businesses, to start up your company? Like, where are the grants? Where's the financing? Where's the funding? Because there are some state programs, but they're very nuanced. So what does the city have?
So that's one of the biggest myths. I've been in economic development for a very long time, and that is something that is not the number one question. No, the city does not have money to give you cash in hand to start your business. However, we do have programs that can assist you while starting your business or while operating your business. And some of those programs consist of let's say you want to start a brick and mortar, you want to start a clothing business, and you find a location on 60th Street. We have a storefront improvement program in which you could apply and receive a reimbursement, let's say up to $15,000 to redo your storefront. So windows, lighting, awnings, doors, windows. So it's not money that goes directly in your hand, but it is a reimbursement. So instead of spending $30,000, you can receive $15,000 back after you complete that project. Also, we have a business lending network, which is a consortium of 30 plus lenders that you can complete a one-page application, provide basic information about you and your business. That application will go out to 30 plus bankers or lenders, CDFIs, and they'll review your application, and there they will get back to you, let you know if they're interested in funding. So that connects you to lenders based on your the amount of money that you're looking for. We also have our business coach program. That is also a program that is available to you if you are looking to apply to some of our programs and you just need that extra push or that extra attention. Jovon and his group can assist you to get to that final push to getting to our program. So no, we don't have money, but we have a lot of reimbursement programs that can assist you.
That is very helpful to know that there are a variety of options that you can look up and see where we can be supported, and even call your office and talk to someone so that you can walk us through it. And speaking of financial lending institutions, Jovon, where should people be banking, or does it matter who you choose to start your business account with, which banking institution or financial institution?
Yes, it matters. Like everything, right? Who we vote for, who we choose as our accountant, our attorney, everything matters. But from a banking standpoint, the reason why that's important is because, well, you have three major type banks. You have like credit unions, you have like major banks, and then you have what they call thrift and savings institutions. And basically, you as a business want to go to a bank that, one, will treat you as a priority. That's going to be really, really key. When you call and you have an issue or you have certain needs, that the bank is going to be sensitive to that and be responsive, right? So does it make sense as a small business to go to the biggest bank and you have the smallest account there and you don't get the services that you need? I would say no. I would say align yourself with a bank that's going to treat you as a priority first. The second thing I would say is go to a bank that knows your industry. If you're in the restaurant industry, or if you're in the manufacturing industry or the construction industry, it's very important to go to a bank that understands that industry, because banks on a very fundamental level all do the same thing, right? They take your money, take your deposits, make money off your deposits, and sell you certain products. But what varies with the various type banks, if they in tune with your industry, is that they have specific products to sell you. So if you go along those lines and identify a bank versus just going to what's the nearest bank close to me, but kind of doing the research on who really services your industry, who can you have a relationship with, I think it would take your business a long way.
Thank you for that insight, because you only know what you know. So that is very helpful that you can point us into some better understanding about why it's important to choose a certain type of bank. So now, everybody knows that you all have started your own companies. And of course, on that path, people on Instagram, they say, entrepreneurship, you get followers and then you're rich. But we know that's not how it works. It is a path. So I want to start with you, Bernard, because I'm a lawyer also. And when I was a public defender, people would say, oh, you good, you should start a firm. And I'm like, but see, I didn't study business. I studied political science, and I don't know that my clients, I can make them pay me. So I said, I'm gonna stay right at this office where I get a check. And some other people, whatever your industry is, you can relate to that. Everybody doesn't have what it takes to launch a business. So for those who are listening, you're here because you either have one or you want to do that. So Bernard, you can start, then we'll go to Darlene and Jovon, as what were some of your experiences with launching your business, and what is that path like to be a startup company?
Thank you. I have the vantage point of having now started two businesses. One not so successfully, the other so far so good. In my first endeavor, I think that I was optimistic to the point of naivete, where I would hear things like, "Oh, well, it takes money to make money," and I would take that to its logical conclusion and spend money on things that I didn't really need to be spending money, like expensive furniture in my office and expensive branded merchandise that was never going to actually help me to get a client. So it took me a long time of making mistakes like that over and over and over again until I got into a hole deep enough to realize, oh, this isn't how you run a business. So I learned from a lot of my mistakes in those early years. So I would say that, and it wasn't that I didn't business plan. I did. I had an excellent plan, but I didn't have the I guess the perspective to understand how everything fit together and the discipline to stick to the plan when things didn't go the way that I was expecting. The benefit of that experience in my practice now as an attorney is that I'm able to give legal advice on the one hand, but then also I remember what it was like, especially in those early days, to just make bad decisions and to just not have all the information. So what I've learned and what I really try to do now is get as much advice as possible before making any major decisions. So if it's in marketing, I'm going to want to talk to my marketing person before I do anything. If it's going to be an expense of any kind, I'm going to want to talk to my financial people. I'm going to want to make sure that even though I'm ultimately the decision maker and it's my business, that I don't do things out of naivete or out of an abundance of optimism or out of a lack of information. Rather, I want to be making wise decisions with the counsel from people who know how to help me and who are trying to help me.
Jovon?
Sure. Thank you. In all fairness, my transition was a little different. I was actually a partner in a pretty prominent firm here in Philadelphia before I launched the firm. So I was actually running a business inside a business already, and I had that kind of training in addition to working with a ton of entrepreneurs. So my transition, although somewhat was difficult, I wouldn't qualify it as being incredibly difficult because I had the biggest thing was the personnel and actually kind of downgrading from the status of where I was at to kind of trying to accomplish doing the same things I was doing with less resources, which was a challenge. But outside of that, you navigate that, you get through that. But I do have the distinct privilege of working with a ton of entrepreneurs, and that's been my career for the most part. A lot of innovative, highly performing individuals. And what I learned from them directly is that, it's not how much money you have starting off or whatever. It's the only common denominator amongst all of them is their heart. They have the heart to kind of go after something, and it's their first option. It's not, they don't have second options. They kind of just go for it, and it just kind of pours over to me because as serving these type of individuals, you have to kind of match their energy and their level of success. So starting out, it's one of those things where it's going to be bumpy, but long as it's like the stock market, it goes up, it goes down. You only really lose money when you pull out of the stock market. You don't lose money if the value is just going down, and you're going to have those swings. But long as you have confidence in what you're doing, and the most important thing with any business to me, even before having money and structure and all of that, is just have a customer. If you have somebody that's willing to pay you for whatever you provide, a product or service, you're so far ahead so many other people. People have ideas and don't know who they're going to sell it to. But if you already have a customer or a client that somebody is going to purchase, you can actually go to a bank and leverage off that. You can trade off that collateral of saying that, I have this client. So there's so many things that you can do, but starting businesses are tough. And I'll close with this. I used to teach at Temple for the past couple years before I stopped. And it was a class of a bunch of aspiring entrepreneurs. And one of the first questions I was asked, well, how many people are entrepreneurs in here? And you probably have like half of the class raise their hand. And I say, well, how many people have households in here? Everybody will raise their hand. I say, okay, how many people have kids in here? Everybody raise their hand. I'm like, well, you're running a business. Your kids are employees. Your household is the same thing. You got money coming in from either your paycheck or some other source. And the whole goal at the end of the day is take care of all of your responsibilities without spending more money so you don't have a loss and anything like that. So to me, everybody to a certain extent that runs a household is in essence have the basic foundation of being an entrepreneur. It's just a matter of what scale you want to take it at, what level you want to take it at. But if you're running a household, you have kids, they're employees, because if they do their chores, they get money. If they don't, they don't. If they're doing well, you put them in private school. If they don't, they don't. It's no different from a bonus structure. It's no different from making sure things get done. And if you look at it from that vein, from running a business, yes, obviously it's more strategic things, but on the fundamental level, to me, it's all the same.
So I am an entrepreneur. I didn't even know it. Keep this house going. Tell everybody. I have a t-shirt that says chill, she's got it. So I'm glad to know that, Jovon. You're instilling a lot of confidence in me this morning. So now the next question is, Darlene, I do want you to share, but I wanted you to add this too. How do you get a good team? So share your journey And I have been to Star Fusion. You didn't mention that good fried rice that comes with those chicken wings, but share your journey towards entrepreneurship, and also how do you build a good team?
All right. All right. So I'll segue into challenges first, and then I'll talk about the team. Is that what you want me to do? All right. So challenges. I had a lot of challenges trying to open up Star Fusion. Most chefs or most people have like a restaurant background, and that's not my background. I have a big background in sales. I worked in sales for over 15 years. At 10 years at 20 years, I think. 9 years at Verizon sales company. And then I also worked at Jones Retail Corporation as a district sales manager for 9 years as well. So I have about 18 to 20 years of sales experience. So that was my start. So entering into the restaurant business was extremely challenging, especially one, because it was new. But one thing I did have was determination. And I knew how to run a business to a certain extent because I ran other people's businesses. So if they trusted me to run a business, I knew it was okay to jump out on a leap of faith and run my own. Now, one of the biggest challenges I had was you mentioned building a team. That was one of the hardest things that was one of the hardest challenges that I had to face. At one point when I opened, I was the delivery driver, I was chef, and I was a server and waiter and host. Don't ask me how I did it all. Somehow I figured it out. I put a customer on hold cooked the food really quick, bagged it, even drove food really quick to maybe around the corner 2 blocks away, came back and jumped back, washed my hands, of course, and jumped back and cooked again. That was all in the beginning. When I realized I can't run a business the way I ran it in my home, I realized that I had to add a team. I had to start hiring people. And one of the things when you do hire a team, the first thing you think about is how am I going to pay these people? What if the people don't walk through the door? But luckily, because I was selling dinners in my house first, people kind of got a window what Star Fusion was already. So I had a little bit of business coming in the door, but not enough to secure like a big giant team. But one of the starts on building my team, I put an ad in the paper. That wasn't very successful. I used Indeed. Indeed is one of those employer search engines that you can use. It's you can put like a budget inside, either $5 or $20, and that helps bring employees. I've reached out to services like Phil Abundance, who helped me bring in new team members. So initially it was extremely tough trying to build a team. Right now I have like a knack on how to bring more people into the business, but the challenge factors of that was trusting people to cook your own food, cook the food the way you want to deliver it. That was really hard for me to let go and trust. But in order for you to grow your business, you got, as an entrepreneur and a chef, you got to be able to step away from it, delegate some tasks, teach some folks how to your special recipes so they can serve it, so you can go out and make new connections, bridge some gaps with other businesses in the area. So you have to build a team in order for you to be successful. So the challenge aspect is definitely there 100%, but you have to do it.
Wow, that's dynamic. So I have to give you that shirt because you had it. You were doing it all, wearing every hat. I'm glad you're not doing that anymore, but you built a great team to run all those locations. So my next question is, how do you find good employees and keep them? So you've given us your advice, Darlene. Do either Bernard or Jovon have any specific suggestions for our entrepreneurs on the line to build a team with hiring good people and retaining them?
You know, I've in terms of finding people, I've always been lucky that most of the people that I've hired have come through referrals and personal relationships. But I'd like to, if you don't mind, I'd like to spend a moment focusing on the retention part of it. You know, first of all, I mean, I think retention starts from day one. It starts really during the hiring process and in the impression that you make. And the policies that you have and how you communicate that to your team, and so I think it's important that an employee who comes into the workplace knows what to expect, knows your stance on EEO, EEO and discriminatory type issues, know your policies with regard to leave and to insurance, to have everything spelled out in an employee handbook, so that they know what to expect in terms of their employment relationship. I think that's very, very important. Also, in terms of retention, thinking through how to keep your key employees, how to compensate them either with equity in your company or with bonuses, with promotions. Those are all ways you can incentivize your employees and let them know that that you value them and put them on the same page with you in terms of being motivated to build and grow the company.
Well, I'm an HBCU grad, and you know, I always recall it wasn't a great abundance of individuals or companies, you know, coming to recruit us. So I just have a certain affinity. So a largely part of my firm is comprised of HBCU grads. So that's strategically how I kind of recruit. But my non-HBCU grads, you know, which I'm open to hiring as well, is that you know, I look for character. I look for somebody that wants to be the best that they can be. You know, obviously to work at a CPA firm, you have to have a minimum level of experience, but I don't get hung up too much on whether or not this person has done it before, whether or not this person is I look at whether or not this person wants to be the best that they can be and want to be a part of something that's being built. And if I lean on those characteristics, and so what I encourage you to do is identify what characteristics are going to complement your company the most. And those are the type of people that you should seek, regardless of where they come from.
Excellent advice. And did you say Cheney University, or is that one of our mutual Facebook friends?
I didn't say it, but yes, that's where I attended. Yeah.
Just want to stay with you real quickly, because since you are in the financial service industry, everybody wants to know, how long will it take to make a profit? So they either have a product or a service and they launch their business. How long will it take for them to start seeing a real profit in their business?
All depends. I've seen clients make profit year one. I see profits. We're working with a doctor in Atlanta that does cosmetic surgery. I mean, he's killing it. He's already made 4 times his money in like 4 months. It all depends on, to me, it comes back to the customer or the client and your ability to service that customer or client. I don't even care if it's just one. If you have that one person, you treat them like that's all that matters in the world, or you have 10 and you treating all those 10 individuals like that's all that matters in the world, is going to reap its benefits. So I've seen it. There's no formula to say that in year 3 you're going to start making money. I am doing a plan now for these studios, where these hair salons, where you lease this warehouse space and you put like 50 individual hair salons in there out in Utah. And we're planning, and it's saying that it's not till year 3 that they're going to make money. But that's because of the heavy cost that it takes to outfit and get the building up and running. And that's a risk that the owners are willing to accept. But there's no formula for that. You can make money day one. It goes back to kind of what Darlene said, and I'm surprised she says she only makes chicken. If you haven't been there, I mean, the shrimp, it's amazing. The chicken sandwiches, the salads, the wraps, the spring rolls. You know, I don't want to do a commercial here, but, you know, I definitely encourage y'all to attend Star Fusion Express. But it depends on your strategy. So, again, there's no real formula. It could be day 1 or year 3. But if it's beyond that, I just hope that it's really, really big money if it's beyond year 3, because the longer you're in it, it may take some time for you to recover some money.
I'll also add, I think that, you know, I guess I'm kind of big on business plans because a lot of us do not sit down and think through what it is that we're actually trying to do. We just jump in. And so I think also helping to, I guess, determine when you will see actual profits. And Jovon, you could just nod your head because I'm not the expert, but doing your projections, right? So sitting down and doing your financial plan and putting together your projections and, you know, just like Darlene said, your costs and knowing how to cost it out and all of those things that will also help you determine when you will make money. And most times it'll tell you, first year you'll make money, or you won't see any money 3 years from now because how much money you have to put out in order to get back. So I just wanted to add that piece.
Thank you for that insight, Naz. We're going to stay with you because when you're talking about costs, one of the main costs that any business has is vendors to get the products. Because even if you're making it, you need something to add with it, unless you're just growing everything at home. So how do you develop relationships with vendors and begin to use those relationships to your business advantage so that you're not losing money or being taken advantage of?
And so I guess what I would start with, just not being a business owner, it'll be on the city side of things, but our Office of Economic Opportunity, in which is the one who put all of this on, the MET Week event, Minority Enterprise Development Week event. They are responsible for working with businesses who want to become certified as a minority, woman, disabled owned business. And a part of that, it allows you to be added to a certification or certified vendor directory. And there you can find a list of businesses that are certified through the city in all different industries. You can locate a business that provides whatever product or service you need, right? And so you can go there, export a list of, let's just say, food service businesses, not food service businesses, but vendors that provide like paper towels and soap and things of that sort. You can identify a business there or a vendor there and then contact them and say, hey, you know, I found your information on the Office of Economic Opportunities website. I am interested in working with you on XYZ. And there you can begin to build that relationship. I will also add that Alice Dungy James, who I believe is on here, do not unmute yourself, Alice. She has relationships with a lot of these vendors because they have to work with her to get certified. So she could also be that person that could connect you to those vendors to help you start building that relationship. And I'll just add that that website to find the certified vendors is PHILA, and we can put this in the chat, .mwdsbe.com. And I'll put that in the chat now. But you can start there by locating, and if I'm not mistaken, it's about over 1,000 or more vendors on that registry.
Thank you. That is excellent information on how we can make sure we're also supporting businesses that are similar to ours, especially ones that have gone through that certification process. Now, this next question is for Bernard. So once people start a business, whether it's brick and mortar, but especially if it's a place in person, people are concerned about liability. Nobody wants to be dragged into court. So what are the things you can, the steps you can take at the onset to protect yourself? Now, you can't stop anyone from filing suits. However, you can at least establish parameters so that you're not personally liable for things.
That's right. So in this country, there's no way to completely prevent lawsuits. If somebody wants to file a lawsuit, they can. But as you say, it's a matter of how you protect yourself and how you reduce the likelihood that people would file lawsuits. And further, that if they do file lawsuits, reducing the likelihood that they would actually succeed against you. So it all starts with where we began this panel discussion and in the formation of a separate entity. If you form a separate entity and remember to always do business as that separate entity, then a lawsuit against the company is a lawsuit against that entity and not against you personally. That means worst case scenario, there's a lawsuit against the company that the company can't pay. That company might go out of business, it might have to go bankrupt, but you as an individual are still protected. You still have all your assets. You still have everything left in your personal bank account. Your family is still protected. So I think it's a crucial first step in running a business to have that separate entity formed so that you have that liability protection in case the worst case scenario happens. Now, in terms of operating your company itself, there still are things that you want to do to make to try to preempt lawsuits, right? Because even if it's only the company that's at stake, that's still something that's really important to you, and you still want to protect it, right? So some of the things you can do are, well, first of all, be aware of where the risks are coming from. Certain industries have different types of lawsuits. For example, a retail shop is more prone to a premises liability, meaning like a slip and fall lawsuit, than a different type of business, a law firm, for example. A doctor's office may have to worry about a malpractice suit where a grocery store would. So, you know, so depending on the industry, there are going to be some things that are specific to that industry that you want to be thinking about. Other than industry specific, employment law issues are the largest source of litigation that businesses have to endure. So that's why I suggested earlier that you always want to make sure that you have an employee handbook that's up to date and it's comprehensive. That is your best friend in the event that any employee has either a claim against you or takes it further and actually initiates a government investigation or lawsuit against you. So make sure you got that employee handbook. And then finally, the third category of potential lawsuits that's the most common is disputes with other businesses. So this is where, you know, we were just talking about vendors. You know, this is a situation where there's two companies that just either there's a difference of opinion or there's some sort of a conflict and they can't work it out. Negotiation doesn't work, and one one of the sides decides to resort to court to have judges sort it out. Now, while you can't prevent that entirely, what are some of the things you can do in advance is, first of all, ask good questions and ask the right questions when you're entering into any relationship, any new relationship. Too many times people want to get a deal done or they want things to be harmonious, so they will let things be ambiguous rather than asking things that are tough. Time after time, however, it's those unasked questions and those ambiguities that come back to haunt them, and that are the result, and that result in disputes. So don't leave any ambiguities when you're talking with a new vendor or with a new potential business partner in the beginning of that relationship. Make sure you ask all the questions, and then don't ignore the answers. I was talking to somebody the other day who wants to get into a joint venture with another partner, and he wanted me to write into the contract severe penalties for lateness and missing deadlines. And I asked him why, and he said, "Oh, because I've been dealing with this person for a little while now, and he always misses deadlines, and he always and timing is always an issue with him." So what I advised him was, listen, yes, I can address this in the contract, but if you're going into this knowing that there's a problem, then he may want to reconsider having this relationship in the first place. Maybe there's somebody better suited for working with you that you want to go into business with instead. So ask the right questions and don't ignore the red flags, and then make sure that you put it in writing. Whatever you agree to, make sure that it's in writing. And if the other side doesn't want to sign a contract or refuses to put it in writing, that in itself is a red flag that you should be thinking about.
Well, thank you for that free legal advice. We are all appreciative. I next want to get some free tax advice from Jovon. For those of you who are paying attention to the news, we were all shocked to know how much our president has paid in federal taxes. But so many things were actual business expenses and deductions that many of us, being the average people, are just not familiar with. And I know years ago in law school, I sold Avon, and my friend who was a CPA from college did my taxes, and she starts asking me questions, you know, just things I hadn't considered the year prior. So we want to know from you, Jovon, what do we need to do so that we can make good accounting decisions, and not in any way to not pay taxes, because we need our schools funded. That's your commercial for today. But to really be able to make good decisions with our accounting so that we are financially savvy.
Starts with structure. You have to make sure that you're organized in such of a manner to enable you to be able to be tax efficient. And what do I mean by that? That means making sure that you understand how money comes in your company and how money goes out. And that's making sure that you have the proper bank statements and credit cards and check writing procedures. And if you're wiring money out, things of that nature. If you have a point of sale system, make sure that you understand how much money is coming in, how much money is coming out. There's all kind of strategies with regards to being tax efficient. And just to touch on Trump, Trump is an individual that don't really use his own money, right? He used a lot of debt from banks, and he used that to, let's say, fund a bunch of business ventures that creates all these losses. And as a result, it's wiping away any potential income that he could make. And you're right, that doesn't apply to the normal person, but it does apply to somebody that's thinking big and doing things on a high scale, and very familiar with the tax law. So I don't expect to turn anybody into tax experts or things of that nature. The mindset or mind frame that you want to be in is that pretty much everything that you're doing associated with your business should be tax deductible, right? And then make sure that you consult with your tax accountant to ensure that they're educating you on why it is or why it's not. I do encourage you in the last 3 months of every business year that's when you would do your planning. That's when you will look at, is there anything that I need to be done? If I'm looking at a big tax bill, what should I do? Should I be bonusing out employees? Should I buy some equipment and be able to write it off? You can buy one of the big things was buying this heavy equipment, these SUVs, and be able to write it off all in 1 year. You buy a 50,000 SUV and you'd be able to write it off. And people were doing that for a while, but what people didn't really understand, that was really built for not SUVs, but it was built for the agriculture industry, where farmers were buying this equipment that weighed a certain amount. This happens to weigh the same as an SUV. So people took advantage of the tax law. And when you talk about tax loopholes and things of that nature, it all comes down to just understanding and knowing the rules. So my best advice to you is be structured to put somebody in a position to give you proper advice. And then in that last quarter of the year, just make sure that you huddle with your tax practitioner, CPA, or accountant to make sure that you're doing any planning in addition to being privy to laws, because you don't know what laws are going on. Laws can change from here to December that will affect this tax year that's not even enacted yet. That's still a possibility. So you just have to stay current as well.
Especially in Harrisburg, because we have a $5 billion deficit, but we're not talking about Harrisburg today. But this is our lightning round. We're getting ready to start with the questions we received in the chat. So I need very brief, pointed answers. I'm going to start with you, Nazara. What is the technology that's out here for businesses to assist us with the financial aspects? And then I'll be coming to Bernard with a separate question, but this is our wraparound, and we're going to take our questions from the audience next.
Okay, so I think one that I know of that is very cheap, but it gets the job done is QuickBooks. I know that we early on in my previous world at PCDC, that was something that we used when helping a business strategize and figure out their accounting books because they didn't have a lot of money. So I am going to stop there because I just know of QuickBooks. But I will also say that, the business services team, we can help you identify those things by referring you to individuals who can assist you with that and identifying what great technology is out there for you.
Excellent. Now, Bernard, question for you. What type of legal costs and expenses should someone just starting out their company plan for over the next year or so, next few years?
So there are minimal costs associated with starting the business. The fee is $125 if you work with an attorney. It may be either a couple hundred or up to a couple $1,000s to do the formation documents, depending on the complexity of your company. again, depending on the business, some of the contracts that you might want are non-competes, non-disclosure agreements, non-solicits, and those, again, all are going to range from, depending on who you work with, a couple $100 a piece to a couple $1,000 a piece. You will want to consider whether or not you want to trademark your logo, your name and your logo. A trademark is federal protection that prevents one of your competitors from copying your logo and using it to compete against you unfairly. That can be several $1,000s. So, I mean, it all kind of adds up. And I'm aware that people view legal costs as an expense. But the reality is that some of these things actually, I think should be viewed as investments. For example, a trademark on your logo creates value for your company because now you have an asset that not only are you more protected against competition, but you have an asset that you can now sell to somebody else or include in a transaction later on. So the more that you invest, the more you consider these kinds of things as legal investments, I think the better perspective you have on when to make those investments over the first couple of years.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Now to Jovon. So when I was selling Avon, I found out I like to buy it more than I sold it. So what is your advice if, things just don't work out with our initial business launch and plan and our objective? We need to do something else where we're not consuming more than we're supposed to be investing and making profit, of course. How do we protect ourselves from loss? And then Darlene will have the final word and we're getting into the questions.
The understand why you're losing money. So an example that you gave, you liked your product more than you was willing to sell it to your customers, right? That's just a losing proposition. You might as well just get out of business. But if you're losing money because you don't have the right team, you don't have the right structure, you wasn't in a position to perform. I always take responsibility when my employees fall short on something. If I know as a leader, I did not put them in a position to perform. The same thing happens with if I didn't get the proper resources, if I didn't give the proper guidance. And so your business is the same way. You have to put yourself in a position to perform. And if you felt as though that you did that and you still failed, then yes, cut the cord. But if you did not do that, then I think you owe it to yourself, your vision, to give it that all. So those legal costs that Bernard talked about that you wanted to cut corners on, maybe it's time for you to just incur that cost, right? But if you did everything that you can in your power to properly position your business and you still fail, then it probably was not a good business, or the timing was wrong, or it just wasn't an appropriate fit for the time. But if you didn't do that, I encourage you to at least give it that shot.
Excellent. Thank you. I got out of that business, for the record, because my accountant was like, sis, I'm like, but the things are on sale when you buy. Yeah, I couldn't rationalize it. So Darlene, what advice would you give yourself if you were starting over again right now?
I wouldn't have been in so much trouble if I would have known what I know now, right? First of all, get a good POS system. POS in the restaurant business stands for point of sale. Get a good POS system that can show you all of your numbers, inputting all your numbers coming in and inputting all your numbers coming out, because you can't stay successful if you don't know your numbers. Some of the software that I use is, one is called Quickbooks. Quickbooks helps me organize the accounting aspect of my business. It helps me organize the recipe aspect of my business. So two things that can help out with. If I have a new employee and I have to teach them a new recipe, I can just print it off my storage system. So good software, a really good POS system will help you go a long way. You definitely need that when you plan out your business. So that's one of the number one things I would do. I wouldn't need Jovon help as much. I'm only kidding. If I would have did that first, but that's one of the things that he recommended I get was a really good business software for your business. I know everybody on that's listening on this chat is not doing restaurant, but that's one thing. I don't know what business you are doing, but you need really good software that can record every aspect of your business. For one, if you're adding a new team member to your business, or if you want to grow your business, everything will be all written out and planned out for you.
Excellent.
I just
Thank
want to
you.
jump
Oh,
in.
please.
I just want to jump in and, giving advice and not starting over again, but if you are starting up, first thing you want to do is reach out to the Office of Business Services, because we can
Absolutely.
help you. We can connect you to a Jovon. We can connect you to a Bernard. We can
Yes.
connect you to a Darlene who can help you understand all of these things that we shared today. And so the business services team can assist you. The information is in the chat, but I'm going to give you the hotline number just really quickly, 215-683-2100. And there is always, even during the pandemic, someone answering the hotline, so we can even assist you with giving you that advice to get started.
Say the number again. Say it one more time.
215-683-2100. And you can also email us at business.phila.gov.
Thank you, Nazara, because many times we don't take advantage of the free advice that's right here provided as neighbors and citizens, residents of the city. So we're going to get into our chat questions. And the first one is from Ms. Hall. Ms. Hall has a home-based business, and she's curious to know if funding is available. And she also wants to know if you can have more than one EIN number. So Nazara, I'm sure you have an answer, and whoever else, just please jump in.
So depending on the type of business you have in your home, you can get, there is some funding opportunities out there. I'm sure one of the lenders that are in our business lending network does provide funding. So I would just give an example, like if it's a home daycare, I'm certain that there is funding out there. It just depends on the type of business that you have in your home. And I'll defer to Bernard for the answer about the two EIN numbers.
I can take that one.
Okay.
I could take that one. State Rep McClinton, can you answer a question for me, please?
Absolutely.
Do you have two social security numbers?
No, absolutely not.
So, and the reason why I asked that question is because when you establish an EIN number, that is in essence the social security number for your business equivalent. That's the equivalent. So you would not have two social security numbers for yourself, nor would you have two EIN numbers for your business. The purpose of getting the EIN number, though, even if you don't plan to incorporate, is when you open up a bank, if you start having employees, if you start getting contracts, things of that nature, you can use that EIN number instead of your social security number. That could be all over the place. And as we all know, social security numbers are subject to fraud. So I encourage you, even if you incorporate, you need a EIN number. It's not optional. But if you're a sole proprietorship, you do not need an EIN number. You can continue to use the social security number, but I still would encourage you to get one so you can have your business matters functioning under that EIN number for your business.
And just to clarify, that was all correct. But just to clarify, as an individual, you can own multiple businesses, and each of those businesses would have a separate EIN number. So no, and it's one EIN per company. A company can have multiple EINs, but you could potentially have multiple EINs obtained for a variety of companies.
Thank you both. And Ms. Hall shared that it's a real estate company and also notary services. So that might be the type of scenario, Bernard, where it's two separate entities and not the same company. The next question is from one of my neighbors. Thank you for joining us, Mrs. Killebrew. She is a service-based company that only works virtually. And her question is, does she still need a commercial activity license? Because she's not in a brick and mortar.
So in order to do business in the city of Philadelphia, you need a commercial activity license, period. Yeah, so if you don't want, so I'll give you a better explanation. Let's just say you sell your services to someone in Philadelphia and they're not happy with your services. And they call 311 or L&I on you because they are not happy with your service. If L&I follows up and let's just say they come out to your home and they find that you are operating a business and you don't have a commercial activity license, you could get in trouble. So commercial activity license, it is free. You do not have to pay for a commercial activity license. So I would recommend that if you are doing business in the city of Philadelphia, you should have your commercial activity license.
Thank you for that response and all of that information. The next question is from Ms. McMillan. She's the founder and, she's the founder and CEO of Advocate for Me, LLC. She specializes in working with families who care for special needs children and offers resources, advocacy, and training. She stated that because of the pandemic, she's moving to an online business and wants to know what will the requirements be to service families and businesses outside of Pennsylvania in other states.
So outside of Pennsylvania, that is something that we would need to refer you to the Department of State, and each state has different regulations as to when operating a business. But as it relates to what you need here for the city, that is something that we would need to look into so that we're giving you the proper information. It's not something that I know off the top of my head, but it is something that we could work you through. We can even also connect you with those jurisdictions or entities outside, organizations, or state county offices, or whatever it is where you want to operate outside of the city, so that you can connect with them to find out what it is that you need to set up there.
Excellent answer. Now the next question, if your business is online but based in your home, do you need a license since the location is your primary address? And how do you go about displaying that online? Would you apply for a PO box? And if you have a home-based business that's providing good representation, is that the type of scenario where you have business expenses to deduct from your taxes?
I'll refer the text question to Jovon, but as it relates to the licenses, it just kind of goes back to what I just answered. Everyone should have a commercial activity license. It's free. You can obtain it online or acquire it online and get it as long as you don't have any issues with the Department of Revenue. You can apply online and get it immediately so that you are in compliance. When registering for the commercial activity license, your commercial activity license follows you as an individual. So you could use your home address, or you could use a PO box as it is connected to you as the person.
If everyone could just mute, I know sometimes you zone out of a Zoom occasionally, but if everybody could just mute, please. Thank you.
Can you repeat the tax portion of that question again, please?
Yes, she wanted to know if your, let me just read it and not try to paraphrase it. Does having a home-based online business provide a good representation of being able to have a lot of business expenses that are tax deductible?
When we use the word representation of business expenses, it's either you incurred the expense or you did not. It does not matter whether or not you're a home-based business or you have, if you're in a skyscraper. At the end of the day, did you have the expense or not, and is that expense supported? I don't think that the IRS or Pennsylvania state or Philadelphia shows favor to or non-favor to those home businesses. It's just a matter of whether or not the expense is legitimate or not, if I'm understanding your question correctly.
The next question is for you, Bernard, or maybe actually still with you, Jovon. Can the legal costs during a company startup be written off in terms of tax purposes?
Yes, startup costs on a federal level could be written off up to 5,000. In excess of that, then you get to amortizing. But yes, you can write it off generally.
I'm not gonna disagree with the tax guy. I'm gonna stay in my lane.
Stay in our lanes. Another question from Mr. Furline. What type of business needs to be licensed and bonded?
All businesses need to be licensed here in the city of Philadelphia. Let me just also be clear that when I am giving this information, it is for businesses in the city of Philadelphia. As it relates to being bonded, the number one business, or a few businesses that I know off the top of my head, are contractors, I believe home health aid agencies. I'm going blank. But those are the top two that I know of that need to be bonded. Yeah. Contractors, home health aid. I'm losing my train of thought, but those are the top two.
The next question is still for you, Naz. Do you need an appointment to visit the Office of Business Services? And I'm imagining it's probably not open or reduced hours like some offices are.
So right now, the Office of Business Services team, some are in the office, but primarily we are working virtually. However, again, if you call our hotline, we could either work with you over the telephone, or we could schedule a virtual meeting with you. And so, of course, in order to do that, when you call our hotline or if you email us, we will connect you with your appropriate business services manager, and either you will have a conversation with them over the phone or a discussion over the phone, or we could schedule a time to meet with you virtually. But right now we are not meeting face-to-face in the office.
So this will be our final question because we're coming to that mark in the hour. What are the necessary licenses for businesses in Philadelphia? And Kieran, if you could specify in another comment what type of business, just so we're as specific as possible with the answer. The second question is, when forming a corporation or LLC, what are the 3 things needed to form one?
So I could take the second question. What are the 3 things needed to form a corporation or an LLC? The first thing, in either case, you'll need an EIN, and you would get that from the IRS. We've talked about the EIN lots of times already today. That's the equivalent of a social security number for your business. Secondly, you're going to need to do the state documents. I believe it's called a certificate of formation for corporations, and a certificate of organization for LLCs. And both of those you can find at the Department of Corporations website for the state of Pennsylvania. And then the third thing is the governance document. The governance document typically is drafted by an attorney, and that would be either an operating agreement for an LLC or bylaws for a corporation. Now, I say they're typically drafted by an attorney. They don't necessarily have to be. If you are going to draft it yourself, you just want to make sure that if you're going to start from a template, that you understand everything that's in the template, and that you customize the terms of the agreement to reflect the way that you actually are going to run your business. But anyway, those are the 3 things that you need officially to form your LLC or your corporation.
Okay, we have a couple of last second. If you have a business and you've become a partner in the company after it was started, do you need to be on the EIN, or can it be placed in paperwork that you are a co-owner of the company?
The EIN application identifies one responsible party, but as the partnership grows and admit partners, you will be reflected on that partnership tax return that's associated with the EIN. So it's not necessarily that you're attached to the EIN by the fact that you're a partner in that company. And on the tax return, you'll get, typically, if you're a partnership, you'll get a K-1 that reflects the EIN of that company, as well as your social security number, or whether or not you have a business that owns that partnership. It will be reflected on the EIN. So it's not necessarily attaching you in a way where you have to do an application with the IRS. It comes with your tax filing.
Is it reasonable to presume CPAs and tax offices need to be bonded?
I can speak for CPAs. We're bonded to the extent that we're handling your cash. If we're not handling your cash, there's no need for us to be bonded. But generally, if we enter into an engagement with your company and we're handling your cash, then yes, we will be bonded. And you can ask for those policies on demand.
I think I know the answer to this last question. So it's one word, Bernard. Should I consult an attorney when creating an operating agreement?
Of course, yes. I mean, listen, I get that, you know, the money is an object sometimes and people have to make choices. But it's a really important document, and you don't want to get it wrong. And there are implications for getting it wrong. So I personally think it's worth the investment. Certainly, I'm biased, but yeah, if I was going to give a one-word answer, it would have been yes.
Well, thank you. And Ting, if you could add everyone's contact information from the panel again, so people can follow up. And of course, you can call the city office. It is free. That you can get so many services. To Sylvie, thank you for the warm welcome. To all these dynamic panelists, thank you for your wealth of information that you provided in this time. And of course, to the senior manager, Nazara Sabri, I'm so appreciative to your commitment and making sure that there are tremendous commercial corridors in every corner and pocket and crevice of the city. I'm a personal witness of your hard work. And with that, I'm turning it over to you. Thank you all for having me this morning, as well as your moderator.
Thank you so much, Rep. McClinton. I owe you a huge thank you for facilitating and moderating this amazing workshop. All of the interactions and the personality that you brought to this workshop kept everyone engaged. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I look forward to continuing our work together. Thank you to our Acting Commerce Director, Sylvie Gallier Howard, for providing our welcome. Our panelists, Bernard, Darlene, Jovon, thank you for participating and sharing your knowledge and expertise with our attendees. All of the information that you shared was invaluable. To the participants, I hope all of the information you received today pushes you forward to becoming your own boss. All of the contact information has been included in the chat. Please feel free to reach out to us. As I said, our business services team is on standby at all times. Well, not all times, but 9 to 5. Looking to work with you, and you can reach us at that 215-683-2100. Finally, my staff, thank you so much for all of your continuous hard work. Without you guys, we would not be able to revitalize corridors, provide this invaluable information to aspiring entrepreneurs, cut down the time it takes for them to actually cut their ribbon. So thank you. But I also want to especially thank Ting, Michelle, and Nicole, who helped put this event together and who worked behind the scenes today. Thank you. You guys will be receiving a survey shortly. Please just take 2 minutes of your time to complete it. This will allow us to understand what workshop we should bring to you next. Don't forget also, it is still Med Week, Minority Enterprise Development Week. So please sign up for additional events. They are great opportunities to network, learn more information about whatever it is that you need to know, and they are happening through Friday. With that being said, Be well, be safe, and don't forget to mask up. Thank you.